Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February edition of Discord Demo Day. I am your host, Atish. And if this is your first time tuning in to one of these live streams, this is an opportunity for you, music producers around the world, to submit your demos to me and through my Discord channel. And my guest and I, this month, Love Over Entropy, will listen through your demos and hopefully give you some constructive feedback to help unblock you or move you forward in your musical journey, or you can completely ignore it because we're just two people with opinions. Um, I also have a Patreon program at patreon.com/atishmusic. We're probably not going to get through all the submissions today. So next month, if you want to bump your submission to the top, you can support me on Patreon, and that will guarantee that your submission makes it into the mix. So enough about me. I am very, very excited this month to have Love Over Entropy as my guest. I'm a massive, mega fan of Michelle's music. In particular, there's many tracks of yours that I play and love, but your 2019 track on Cocoon, As If, is probably one of my most played tracks of all time. I actually wrote a little computer program that analyzes my play history across all gigs, and it's like I think it's a number 1, 2, or 3, and it kind of
Oh,
rotates.
wow.
And yeah, so I love that track, and I love so much more of your work. If you're not familiar with him, he's had great releases on highly reputable labels. Something Happening Somewhere is a great one. I think probably your most popular claim to fame is the Tony track. Dixon did a remix of that one, and that definitely put you on a lot of people's radars. And you've released on Cocoon, Endless, Lossless, and you've been gracious enough to do two remixes for my own label, Manjumasi, which were just absolutely beautiful. I love his sound. It has a very unique fingerprint, always interesting textures, and it's just really, really beautiful, interesting, mysterious music. Michelle,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. I'm really excited to have you. We met for the first time. I think it was back at a Manjumasi showcase at ADE, maybe 3-4 years ago,
Yeah.
and I found your personality to be very warm, very humble. I remember you gave me some suggestions on some piano VSTs when I asked you how you created some really interesting sounds. But I'll just pause there and just want to say, Michelle, Love Over Entropy, welcome to the show. Happy to have you.
Glad being here.
All right.
I
So
gave you some tips on the delay. Now I remember.
oh yeah.
A max for live delay.
Yes. Um, and then actually, I just learned in our little pre-call show here that you're actually formally a music educator as well.
Yes, I am.
Ableton certified, and I think you teach production through, was it Berkeley School of Music? You said?
No, there's a conservatory. I don't know. Is conservatory an American term?
Yeah.
Oh, it rings a bell. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so there's a conservatory in Haarlem, which is close to Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I teach production 1 day a week.
Awesome.
All kinds of levels. And then I have my own production school and I do one-on-one sessions as well.
Got it. What's the name of your production school?
It's called Pintago, so that's Pyntago, and we offer international courses. So,
Awesome. I think I'm going to sign up because I definitely want to learn from you. Because can everyone tell here that I'm a fanboy and I'm very excited to have him on the show?
I can tell.
So that's awesome. And the question that I'm very excited to jump into, which you gave me a little preview of over email, is what have you been up to the last, let's say, couple years?
So, well, I think everything changed back in 2020, which was, well, for me, it was a weird time. I think for most of us, it was a weird time. So, I remember my last gig was Dubai. I was, back from Dubai. I was in Russia. And there were all these people wearing masks and stuff, and that was when COVID started happening. And then before I knew it, everybody was in lockdown, and there were no gigs anymore. So it was a really strange time. And then I decided to do to go to a school for biological farming, small scale farming, and I'd been planning to do that for a couple of years. But yeah, that was seemed like a good moment.
What exactly is biological farming as opposed to farming?
Well,
I don't know much about this.
what do you think about when I say farming?
I think of American cornfields, which they'll probably turn into high fructose corn syrup and giant tractors and big silos.
Well, that's what I want to do. Now the thing is, so the first is biological.
Hmm.
So that means you don't use pesticides and you take care of the soil.
Hmm.
Like the soil is, you base everything around the soil. And the second thing which is important to me is small scale. So I mean I do internship as well, and the companies I work at are really really small. So imagine like a football pitch, something
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
So football, something that size, where they grow like 90 varieties of vegetables and everything, and they sell it to people directly. So this is a whole new. It's called community supported agriculture. Maybe you've heard about it.
I haven't actually.
Where have you been?
I don't know. It's
You're too deep into music. No, but that's
it's true.
it's super popular, and it's and yeah. So I decided to do that, but also because perspective for performing and, well, even doing music, it was pretty bleak back in March
Hmm.
2020. I mean, things have changed completely. It seems like a different world now.
Hmm. Hmm.
But back then, I had a totally different perspective. So I decided to enroll in a course, a 2 year course, and that means one day a week I go to school, and then 2 days a week I do internship. So that means working on the land from early in the morning to late in the evening.
That's so cool. And how did you decide this was the way that you wanted to spend your time in the pandemic? Was it, you had this dream since a young boy that you want to do this, or there's something that
No,
you know,
no, no. That's really funny. I never had that dream. In fact, when I was 13 years old, that's more than 30 years ago, I did a test,
hmm.
to determine what you wanted to be, where your interests were. And it turned out I should become a farmer. And my dad told me, I got home after that test and I was so mad at the test for telling me that I wanted to be a farmer, because where I come from a little rural town, and farmers, they were not cool. So I was really angry. And yeah, then I got into music, and then uh, uh, yeah, so it came back to haunt me.
That's cool.
To haunt. No, but I mean, 2 years ago, I remember going to the studio and also asking myself, like, what am I doing here?
Hmm.
I'm manipulating sounds on the screen. It all felt really artificial and
Hmm. Hmm.
abstract. So the opposite of that is getting your hands in the soil, getting them dirty.
Yeah.
And so there were a couple of months where I was really like, I'm going to quit doing music, and
Hmm.
this will be my new direction. But now that we're 2 years later, it feels like, okay, there's something in both of them that I really really enjoy.
That's awesome. And this kind of gets to just in the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've personally been thinking about, which is my career as an artist or what I'm trying to do as an artist. Like what is the big picture? Like what am I trying to accomplish? Like what is the meaning behind this? And I think for me it's starting to emerge or starting to evolve, partially through this and my mentorship program. And for me it's starting to emerge, kind of helping others, where maybe before it used to just be I just want to play great parties, have a good vibe, see people dance and express myself. um, how what has been the purpose of your artistic journey, let's say before the pandemic hit, and what is the
Uh-huh.
purpose of your artistic journey now that you've recalibrated?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, before the pandemic, it was always about exploration.
Hmm.
I'm a pretty curious person, I think. Um, so it's about exploring ideas,
Hmm.
and it's. I was just thinking about this afternoon. Like, often you hear people, like, when they make a track and then they make another track and then they say, like, yeah, I got so bored and I started doing new stuff. Uh, I'm just really curious.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I get bored easily. I just really curious. So when I do a track and I do another track and then I feel like, oh, okay, well, there must be new ways to explore. And that's the thing with music. It's so endless. Wherever you look, there's this whole world opening. Like you get into microtuning, for instance.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you hear about microtuning and go like, hey, what's that? And then you dive in, and there's this whole universe that you can dive in of a universe of music, of techniques. And I feel that with music, it's never ending. So wherever you go, if you go into production or sound design or music theory or composition, there's a universe in all of those.
Absolutely. Do you have a method of your exploration, like lock yourself in a room or watch YouTube videos or bounce, sit with a friend in a studio and collaborate? Like, or is it just
Uh,
whatever you feel in the moment?
yeah, never watch YouTube videos. That's a good. No, I think so much of obviously there's a big advantage to YouTube, but I think what it does is um, it makes creativity pretty uniform because everybody watches the same videos, so everybody tries the same techniques. And I see that, I remember back in the days when before internet and even before computers in the studio, uh, people would just get the gear that they could get their hands on. So every studio was unique and an expression of the artist. Whereas now there are so many videos telling you how to do stuff, how to sound like this, how
Hmm.
to build a studio, and people converge on the same. Like if you go on YouTube, there is like three or four people that tell you what is cool to buy,
Absolutely.
because of how the way the algorithms work. So that's why I really prefer to stay out of that and just, you know, tie things together. Get a new pedal, put a synth through it, and see what happens.
Do
So
you find
usually my inspiration is based on sound, on what happens when I put things together.
sure? And it seems like you're just giving me a little video tour of your studio. For you, is it? It seems evidently clear that for you, a lot of the exploration is very tactile, playing with things and
Yes.
touching things. Do you spend any time in soft synths, or do you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I really enjoy there's a power in both.
Hmm.
So the tactile aspect is really important.
Hmm.
Um, Also, to because I have a lot of synths set up around me, to operate them while I'm making a track means I have to move. I have to get up out of my chair, and I think especially if you want to create music that does something to people physically in a physical way or in a visceral way,
Hmm.
yeah, then it's nothing less than logic that you move around yourself as well.
Totally.
So
On that, I think Richie Houghton didn't he just release some extremely low latency Bluetooth studio headphones so you can actually move around amongst all your synths, and that's kind of the mo of these, which is saying
oh, really?
yeah.
What's wrong with long cables?
Yeah, I don't. I guess it depends how you're moving. I do a lot of spinning when I create music, so
Yeah, that then a cable would kill you. So so, so Richard Harding got you back there.
um, the second half of the question, kind of going
Yeah.
back to you saying, when the pandemic hit, you were considering just giving music up altogether.
Yes.
Was that a point where you felt that there was no more exploration left to do, or exploration is
No,
something that never ends? I
no,
assume.
it just felt pointless.
Mm,
Like the exploration you do is within a bubble. I have a studio here that's like, it's a room with a certain size, and that's my universe when I'm here. Um, and then the pandemic hit, and then it was clear that there was a universe outside of that.
mhm,
I
mhm.
think that's, and then when that happened, the question was like, okay, what am I doing here? Like, oh, I'm turning this knob. What does that mean?
Yeah,
But
existential questions. Yeah.
yeah, and I think those questions were really at the surface on at that time. I mean, now it's completely different, and now, I can't even remember what it felt like those days. I wrote a lot, and then I read it back and like, whoa, that's, but it's not. It's really a different world right now.
On the note of a different world, now that you have another discipline that's very, very different from music, having this other influence on your life or this other environment in your life, literally. Does that change the way that you approach making music or exploring, or what you're trying to achieve with music?
No, I think it has better defined what music
Mm.
means to me. So I think the biggest difference between farming, and especially biological farming, and making music is, when I make music, I am the creator. So I determine what happens. So everything plays by my rules. But when you're farming, you're not the one who's making the rules. Especially when biological farming, when you really have to observe a lot and take action accordingly.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
because you can't use any pesticides, there are no easy solutions. So you really have to work with what is given to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a totally different approach. And having done that for the last 2 years has made me appreciate more what I'm doing with music, like creating a universe,
Mhm.
creating this little thing where I am in control.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're kind of a master role versus a servant role. You're kind of a servant to these
Yeah,
guys. You have
yeah.
to. Interesting. It seems like you have to do a lot of listening to be a good farmer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, observing is key,
Observing. Exactly.
and I think um, being able, knowing what it's like to observe really well has helped me
Hmm.
with that.
Got it.
Because that's all I do in the studio: observe really well what is happening.
Excellent. Uh, Great. And then one more question. We touched on this, and I found it extremely unique and inspiring when I said, "Can you send me your WhatsApp number and we'll just connect before the stream." And then also mentioning you don't watch YouTube videos. Um, can you talk? I'm just curious. Can you tell me about your approach to technology and communication?
Yeah, I hate technology. I'm not good at it. No, it's a bit strange to say I don't like technology when I'm surrounded by
That's why I
technology.
laughed a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, neither I can say I'm too stupid for it. No, I like technology to be empowering. I mean, I've been surrounded by technology that has empowered me to create music. And I think that especially smartphones, because I don't have a smartphone. That's your question. I think a smartphone is even designed to not be empowering. I mean, it offers you a lot of what do you say? Not comfort, but it's ease.
Convenience.
Convenience. Yeah, that's the word.
Mhm.
Thank you very much. It offers you a lot of convenience. So when for instance, when I go out walking in a strange city, I carry a telephone, I carry a camera, I carry a GPS device. I might even have a hand drawn map of where I need to go.
Awesome.
So that's not convenient at all, especially when But what happens is, my telephone is not is not an important object in my world. I mean, I just noticed that I was checking it today. It has been out for 5 days, or it has been off for 5 days, and I didn't even notice. And
Wow.
that's. I mean, I know. I always ask people, like they ask me, like, why don't you have a smartphone? And then I ask them, okay, convince me, why should I have a smartphone? And usually the only thing they tell me is like, yeah, it's really easy. You can check your mail everywhere.
Right.
Well, that doesn't sound too convenient, but they have a point. Like I say, yeah, but you can have maps, and if you want to order something, yes, it's much more convenient.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd rather uh, be more empowered than have a little bit of convenience.
Sure. I mean, that sounds great, and it resonates with me in an inverse or in a direct way, which is, I'm not sure if you know, but my history before I was full time music, I used to be a software engineer. I used to work on the Facebook messaging app. I used to work on a previous mobile app, which was access your personal finances anywhere on the go, and
Hmm.
and I lived in a world where we believed that technology was the center of the world and technology should be the center of the world. But the irony is, and especially now that I'm a father, um, my peers and my friends that I worked with who were creating these products we would try and keep our kids as far away from these products as long as we possibly could, which now when I look back on it, I have, I'm really assessing, like, we
What
believed
did
we
I
were,
do?
yeah, what did I do? Like, we believed we were making the world a better place, but, like, no, I mean, we're just kind of creating drugs in a way. I mean, it
It
does.
is, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It is
so it's,
designed to keep you guys. But I remember. I mean, now that you say it, I mean, I was in the .com bubble. So
mhm.
friends of mine. I mean, I was in university studying artificial intelligence,
Hmm.
and I had friends of mine, and they started an internet company in 1995, and we were thinking all these same things. Like, yeah, we are the cutting edge. Like, technology will change everything, and like, we were 18 and we were CEOs, and we were
Yeah.
making so much
Wow.
money, and we thought, like, yeah, this is a new world, and we were telling everybody. But then later, I mean, the funny thing is, we were also inspired by The Third Wave by Alvin Toffler. You know that book?
I don't.
That's actually the book that inspired all the Detroit pioneers as well. So the term
Oh,
techno comes from that book.
oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. So we were reading that as well. Like, it's a futurist book. It was written in, I think, 1980,
Okay. I'll check
and
that out.
the internet was predicted in it. So we were reading it like, yeah, this is the revolution. We're part of it. We're the techno agents. That's as they are called. So,
Huh.
but
Very
then, of
interesting.
course, then e-commerce happened, and then I got a bit disillusioned with all of that.
Got it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I mean,
Somebody
not.
knows Toffler. This is a pretty good chat you
Oh,
have.
there you go. Yeah. Well, in my Discord channel, we have quite a few technorati or recovering technorati as well. Myself, I would consider myself a recovering tech
Why am I
person.
talking with you? Like, I have people who know the book. I've somebody here that says I've talked with the Detroit Three about it. Why am I talking to you?
All right, yeah. I mean, hey, look, I'll send him a link and he can join the chat.
Yeah, get
uh,
me out of here.
awesome, cool. But
Like, if this was a party, and I would now go with the other guy and talk
yeah,
to them,
yeah, yeah,
and
and I'll just be here in the corner and be like, "Hey, I love your tracks. I love your tracks."
yeah, he's just a fanboy. Ignore the guy.
Exactly. Awesome. All right. Well, what do you say we jump in and we start listening to some music?
Please.
All right. Cool. Let me just recalibrate these windows if I know how to do it. Cool. And then just as context before we get in, the first couple submissions, they got jumped to the top of the queue. Thank you guys for submitting on Patreon. And then we have this mechanism that I'm experimenting with. It's called voting, but we're not really voting. But if anyone watching on the stream, if you like what you hear, and if you just want to show support to that producer, if some external encouragement might help them move forward, or so they don't feel so alone in what they're doing, you can go to atishmusic.com/vote and just show your love and say you appreciate what you're hearing. So, without further ado, let's jump to this first track. This is Dummy Splash. I hope I pronounced this right. By Hada Fluminense. And, Michelle, as I was discussing, we're just going to give our feedback. Everything we say is just my point of view and your point of view. So, as producers, you're welcome to completely ignore or you're welcome to run with it, but just our own perspective. So, here we go. we'll pause it there. Michelle, do you want to go first, or should I take the lead on this one? We can alternate back and forth.
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, go for it.
What a wonderful, strange collection of sounds. Now, I really like the space that's created. So when I listen to, they don't seem in one space. So when you listen to the piano, there's almost no reverb on it, and then when you listen to the vocals, they're in a totally different space. But I think it works well, because somehow, even though the elements are a bit disjointed, they're held together by the groove. So that in terms of elements, I think that works really great. I th- Something that you could explore is processing the elements you have a little bit more, like the vocals. There is some gating going on, which is cool. Maybe more digital some digital degradation or something like that, or chopping off of some granular stuff that could make it even weirder. Uh, so the groove is good. I like the sounds. The only thing is, like, if where does it build up to? That's my question. Because the moment when it's supposed to hit, that's when it also dies down in terms of energy. So it really makes me question, like, what is this last part doing, like, after the break? I can see the times on it, but that's like after three. Yeah, there, right there.
328 or so, yeah.
Yeah. So if you ever really, I mean, it can be just that you want a groove to run, but if you want it to mean something, the fact that there's a break and then it's coming back, what do you want people to experience? Because what happens now is, what I experience is, okay, so there's a break, oh, there's a drop, and then, oh, all the elements that have entertained me for the last 3 minutes are gone. So what's the point of that last part?
Yeah. I agree. A lot of the points that you made are similar to ones that I was going to make. If it felt like it came from the break straight into the outro, and yeah, it was kind of an emotional letdown for me when it got there. I do think a new stabby kind of noise came near the end in like the low mids, which I liked. I felt let me start by saying I love the quirkiness of this. The vocal thing is weird. The little, I don't know what that hand percussion. The ooh, 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 I love that. It has a very playful, quirky character to the song, but it also has a seriousness to it at the same time. It has this melancholic kind of dreariness. So I'll start by how I felt. It has a very unique mixed feeling. So that's cool. It definitely caught my ear, and this is something that I would remember. Um, Now, going back to what I was saying, Michelle was talking a little bit about the space. I think you like the space. I feel like there's maybe a little more, for my ears, a little more. There's some room for something else to fill the space a little bit more. Um, that, like I said, that little stabby thing that I felt came in at the end. Maybe there's room to pull that in earlier in the track. It grooved a little bit more then. Maybe even playing with like a texture or even like a light kind of drone noisy sound. It felt a little bit dry for my taste, and part of that it could also be related to how you were saying, um, there's room for more processing on some of the elements.
Yeah, but what I mean, I think there's this rule that I come back over and over again with compositions. It's better to, when you need a new element,
Mhm.
it's better to take an element you already have and then transform it in some kind of way than adding a new element. Because adding a new element, when you add a new element that's taken from something that's already there, it will be automatically related.
Like a
And
motif kind of thing.
yeah. So it's amazing. Like, even you can go really far with transforming it while it's still having some similarity to it. Like, that's something that always amazes me. And then, so instead of filling up the space, but what I really like is it's disjointed in a way that creates a lot of space. Um, but I wouldn't fill it up with new elements.
Sure. Um, so yeah, there's that, playing around with repurposing elements, and to even further that point, maybe you can evolve some of the textures on their own, to you- the most vanilla example that we hear in electronic music is you have a filter and you open it slowly over time. Maybe that's not what you do here, but something where a texture is kind of changing over time, and the texture itself is telling a story as we go to the end, and that story can kind of climax after the break in a new way. But
I think as a suggestion for the composition is have that stripped down part somewhere in the middle.
yeah,
That would be a good one. So you introduce the elements you have, introduce a level of weirdness, and then you get to this stripped down part, and then you go all out.
Yeah.
That could be a way to structure this.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think overall this is a super cool track. It's unique, which is my number one. My ears are always looking for something that feels unique and different, and it doesn't sound like, as Michelle said, a copy of all the YouTube tutorials that you find online. It has its own character and personality. So, hats off on that. Thank you for the submission, and thanks for the support on Patreon. Next one. Oh, and if you like this track, just my reminder that you can go to atishmusic.com/vote. Looks like it's showing a percentage, but a few people showing support for this one. So thanks, Dummy Splash. And let's jump into our next one. This is from Ramza, and let me get my windows rearranged here. This one is called Earthly Creatures. Here we go. All right. Wow.
Was that the end? I wasn't watching.
Yeah, yeah, that was the end. 4 minutes,
Okay, okay.
37 seconds. I'll lead on this one. Ramza, this was very, very interesting. Kind of. Oh, he said the outro is incomplete. Um, I was working with Ramza in my mentorship program for quite a bit, and I think this is by far the most interesting. I mean, you've come a long way, and I think this is the most interesting music that I've heard from you. Uh, this has a lot of personality. The sample choices are very unique. I love music that has surprises. I was definitely surprised a lot in this tune, which is samples coming from different tech. There's garbled up vocal samples. There's like the string violin samples. There's the opera samples. Lots of different things. Um, for my like, I appreciate the fact that there's a lot of different things happening and surprising me. And my ears, maybe it was like a shade towards the direction of like a little bit too scattered. Now, this might be some like abstract feedback, but I wonder if there's a way to kind of hone in the ideas to have them kind of uh, have like a cogent kind of direction or kind of story that they go together. And there is some of that in there as well. I think I can't remember what it was, but like in the second half, a new sound comes in and it keeps building. But there's a lot of ideas being sprinkled in here. Um, I wonder if it's possible to hone them in and have them going in a direction. The groove I really really like. It's like a mean kind of fat groove. Um, my ears started getting a little bit tired of that groove near the end of it, and it's not coming to immediately. I'm wondering if Michelle has any thoughts. If you agree with it, if there's a way to have some variation to the groove or some more evolution of the texture of the groove so it just doesn't feel like it's like stuck in my ears. Maybe even adding some like ghost notes here and there, like doom 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 doom, like once in a while here and there, just to make it feel a little bit more human and a little bit more alive. But I really do like the groove. I think the groove can even be pushed to the next level, which is maybe in another arrangement section. Maybe you add like another kind of maybe a 16th note hi hat on top, in addition to just the eighth note hi hat, just to keep the groove kind of moving forward and keeping the listener, or at least myself, on the edge of my seat and bobbing my head. One more thing, I again I appreciate it because it's weird, but this break, that I didn't completely resonate with me. I mean, it was like pretty out there, but didn't land for me. And also, I think the syncopated bass line sitting underneath it, I would probably start by maybe dropping it there, because for me, the two just didn't interplay perfectly once another there. It just felt like two parts just kind of thrown on top of each other. So I think there's some room to tighten that up there to make them sit a little bit better together. But yeah, I just kind of vomited out a bunch of ideas. But my high level thoughts, I really, really like it a lot. I think there's some fundamentally very, very interesting ideas in there. And I think just honing them in and pushing them to the next level, this is a track that is memorable. I would Shazam this if I heard it on a dance floor. I would remember this. So that's my 2 cents, my 200 cents on that one.
200. Wow.
Yeah, I gave more than 2 cents. I was just rambling for a while there, but
No, I think what is interesting when you started playing, I thought like, hey, here's another one where you have this disjointed sound selection.
Mhm.
But what I felt was where with the first track, if you took away the groove, there would still be a logic to the sound, and that was the first track. But with this track, I felt if you take away the groove, the sounds don't play together anymore.
Mm.
And I didn't feel a connection between the groove and the sounds. Like you said, it felt like they were put on top without really connecting to each other. And I think that is key. If you don't do that, then it starts to sound like a random stream of sounds. Like I remember there was like somewhere, I think like 1 minute 30, there was this new melody introduced and to never appear again. So what is, and it felt to me like this was a track, if somebody creates a track like this, is you start with the intro, then you build the next part, 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 and then there's the outro. Well, or not is in this case.
Eventually.
So that's one way of composing, and the problem with that is you only look like 32 bars in front. Like, okay, now I need to do 32 bars. Now I need to do 32 bars, and that's what it sounded me like to me like it was constructed in this way. Of course, another way of constructing is starting with a more top down. Like, okay, what do I want to tell? And how will I tell the story? And not everything has to be, I like to tell a story like that's really well composed, but it doesn't always have to be like that. But even if you play with elements, like in the first track, the way you sequence them helps to engage people. And I think there was this part. Maybe you can play this. I think there's
Yeah.
after 1 minute, there's like this violin pattern.
Should I go forward?
No, this is. I mean, the groove is really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah, I just let it play. Okay, so there's this this vocal which is not connected to the groove at all. Where are you? What are you doing?
Turning up the volume on my sound card.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so there you have your sound card. No,
Yeah.
so there you go. So this little sound is introduced, and there's no connection between what's there and the new sound. But you can make it connect. So have it play the same rhythm, or take a small part of it, repeat it, so that it becomes connected. And I think if you want to improve on this track, leave the groove as it is and try to look for connection, because the groove is really good. I mean, it has this really subby low end, early morning vibe to it. I think mix wise, which is not that important, but let me mention it anyway. I think there's a little bit too much um, really low sub low end flapping around. That could be tamed, but that's it. So, but I think, I mean, mixing is not the most important thing. I think the way is, if you want to have this random collection of sound, look for connection. That would be my advice to move this track forward.
Cool. Look for connection, but I do personally, I do appreciate randomness from time to time as well. I mean, I think there's the line between both, which is things should be connected and they should evolve and tell a story, but also be surprised.
Yeah, okay. That's a really good point. I mean, for instance, with this, you could have it like the sound we just played, like the vocal, introduce it randomly, and then play it another time randomly, and then it connects, and then you have the best of both worlds, because then you start out with the random stuff. It's really good you mentioned that. You start with the random stuff. It's like, whoa, what's happening?
What's
A-
that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And then once you connect it, then you show that you're the master, that you decide what is happening. It's not like, hey, I found this sample and I just put it on top, and that's what I do. But when you try to connect it, eventually, that's when you show your artistry. I think that's when you show that you are the boss and not the sample pack that you ended up finding somewhere, or the sample.
Absolutely. I'm trying to remember this quote. It was I forget, some jazz, like Miles Davis or Charlie Parker, like the first time you play a wrong note, it's a mistake. The second time you play a wrong note, that same wrong note, it's an idea. And then the third time you play that wrong note, it's something or the other.
Yeah, yeah,
So, like, one time it's a surprise, the second time it's a motif, and then the third time it's part of the arrangement, it's part of the story, kind of thing. So yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for the submission, Ramza. Really, really interesting stuff. And I think there's, if you can squeeze out that last bit of storytelling in there, I think you're onto something really, really cool. So that covers it for this month's Patreon submissions. So thank you for your support. Next month, if we don't get to your demo, if you want to get jumped to the top of the queue, you can support at patreon.com/atishmusic. And so we'll use this as our little break before we get into the I was going to go to your track, Michelle, the Love Over Entropy remix, but it looks like the link may be broken. Let me check my email here.
Oh, really?
Let me check again. You didn't delete it, did you?
I did not.
Okay.
I did log out.
All right. Oh,
Is it?
track was not found. Maybe it has been removed.
Oh, yes, of course. Could it be that? Probably the algorithm. Could it
Oh, do you
be?
think it's tagged? Oh, is it released already?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just listen. I'll just search for it. Actually, I did see it on Beatport when I was on there today. Oh, here we go.
No,
Oh,
it
here we go.
isn't. Is
Perfect.
it?
This is the 10-minute version though, so maybe I'll just jump into the middle. Maybe it's on
People who do long tracks should be forbidden.
you know, that's actually one of our biggest label feedback points.
What?
We'll,
The,
we'll say like, this is like a 12-minute track, but it really only needs to be like 7 minutes. I'm not saying that for this one.
yeah.
It's like you
No,
really
I mean for this track, so it's 10 minutes, and they asked me to do a 5 minute edit, and I thought when I did it, I thought like, yeah, that's about the same.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, everything goes a bit faster, but the meat is there.
Yeah. So let's take this opportunity. So I found it on YouTube, so we're fine. I didn't realize it was released already. This is a remix that you did of a track by Kazdan. I don't know if
Yeah,
I
I mean,
properly.
he used to be an M83,
Oh, cool.
I believe. Yeah, M83, I think. So, and he started his own project, which I think he called it post rock techno or something like that. So he
Cool.
contacted me and he asked if I wanted to do a remix,
Right on.
which I
And
did.
here's what came out, and let's give it a listen. And it is out now. It came out February 10th. On which label was this?
I don't know. They
Well,
haven't given me much information.
okay.
Maybe you tell me. Does it say on?
It doesn't
No.
say in here. I'll check on Beatport as we're listening to this, and let's see what it says. Here we go. Let's have a listen. Oh, that's the label also. Katstan.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I think it's self-released then.
beautiful, beautiful tune.
10 minutes would be better.
I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat. On that note, I think one thing about your music that I really enjoy so much, and it's touching on what you had already given feedback in previous tunes, is this is a track that doesn't have a lot of tons and tons of layers of melodic elements. It doesn't have a whole bunch of um, complex percussion at the forefront, but it's arranged and the track has a few basic ideas and it evolves texturally very, very gradually and very, very tastefully, in my opinion. And you're not throwing in millions of ideas to keep the listener's ears engaged. It's actually quite a loopy track, but through the use of evolving your textures, having automations. I mean, that distortion that comes in on that synth sound, that top layer there. I mean, it just has so much personality. I, as a listener, I'm fully engaged in this. What on paper might look like a loopy track because things are just moving and evolving so much, and I think that really gets down to the core of composition and texture choice, and not having to resort to throwing in a million ideas. The other thing that's happening in this track, and you do this in a few of your tracks that I play, which is it's not which keeps me as a listener on the edge of my seat and kind of hanging on the groove, is it's not always immediately clear to the listener where the one is. And sometimes I think you might even do some polyrhythm kind of things where rather than, a 16 beat or a 16 bar loop, it might be, 14 bars or 15 bars. In this one, a few times I was like, is this actually in 4/4 or is this actually, a 16 beat, kind of synth loop or bass line loop? And the couple times I counted it, it was, but it doesn't always feel that way, or it's not structured in the way that a typical house and techno bass line is, which because it feels a little bit off kilter and it keeps me on the edge of my seat, the track never gets boring. So this could even be expanded to 10 minutes and you could just play with these same ideas and I would probably still be engaged the whole way through.
Yeah,
So
well, this is the 6 minute streaming edit. That's the format you're pushing it. Oh, but that's really good to hear. Um, One thing, I mean, the funny thing is, I have a student now. He's doing modern dance.
mhm.
So he does it, and like modern dance, like artistic, like so he doesn't want to produce techno, and he has made me realize that actually I compose music as if I were a dancer.
Mm.
So for me, music is really a physical experience, and to me, to be honest, a lot of the like typical house rhythms, they feel so clunky. Like
Mhm.
if you take the offbeat hi-hat, for instance, I mean, there's the offbeat hi-hat was invented in disco so white people could dance. I know, so they put the offbeat hi-hat and it really gives this pumping motion. It's really nice. But when I listen to a lot of grooves, it seems like so many decisions have already been made. So there's a kick on every beat. Yeah, check. There's a clap or a snare on every 2 and 4. Check. Now we have offbeat hi-hat. And I think like these are given for a lot of electronic music because they work. But I feel in my rhythms I try to work around that because it just doesn't engage me as much as an artist. When I create those rhythms, I don't get a lot from it. And I thank you very much, because when you say I don't know where the one is, that's exactly what happens. Is you get this really fluid rhythm where rhythm becomes something else than just keeping the pulse and moving you forward like a soldier. And another thing is like what you mentioned. What's his name? Ramza. Like,
Ramza, yeah.
yeah. So he was writing in the chat. I had a look on that. He said like, yeah, I tried to find a balance between randomness and then connection. I feel I'm sometimes, I studied composition and I'm pretty strict, what goes where. And I really want things to make sense. So for instance, like you have the distorted sound. There are some hi-hats which come 1 minute earlier, or this noisy sound, which is actually taken from that distorted sound, high pass filtered really high. And so there is this sound, it's already introduced, but as a totally different element.
Mhm,
See, so
mhm.
there's all these little connections going on. Sometimes I feel I could be a little bit more like Ramza, where I would just throw things, without, having there being a thought behind it. But yeah, this is what I have to offer. So better get used to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for letting me play that on here, and I appreciate it. And
Yeah, and I mean, now you play my track. I have to say I appreciate the people that come on here and then putting themselves on the spot with their music. Because I felt nervous listening to my own track right now.
this is I didn't do it this month, but sometimes as a the phrase to eat my own dog food, I would submit one of my own tracks that I'm working on under a fake name. And then I would have the guest like review it, and I would pretend to give feedback on it, in front of you. And I love doing that exercise because it forces me to
Yeah,
really you have to be very, very vulnerable. One, to release your music, two, to play it for other people asking for feedback, and three, doing it on a live stream where you're sitting there watching someone listening to the music and there's an audience and they're chatting.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard. I mean, it's a victory
yeah,
in itself just to put what you've created out there to other people because it's not
yeah,
easy.
absolutely. Yeah, and it can be really valuable because especially when you're in your studio working all night, and then to have some outside feedback can really help you
Definitely.
understand what you're doing and moving forward.
What's your approach to when you're working on something? And this is one of the most exciting things to talk about when it comes to art. A, when do you decide when you're finished with a piece of work? And then B, do you seek outside feedback to help guide you towards when you're finished? And if you do, how do you go about doing that?
Well, for me, the question when am I finished was never a difficult one,
Mm,
because to me, when I create a track, the process is usually really similar. So for instance, I do a remix or I do a track. I create, I'm just playing in my studio. There's this basic idea, and of course, when you do a remix, the basic idea is already there. So you create a basic idea, and then at some point, your idea takes on an identity. And to me, it almost becomes like a little creature. So I come into the studio, and this little creature is waiting for me.
hmm
And so I enter into a dialogue with it, like, okay, who are you? What do you want me to do? The track will tell me how it wants to be finished based on that first idea, which is usually just a creative explosion or of some
hmm
kind.
hmm
So when am I finished? When I'm done talking to the track,
Mm.
basically. When the dialogue is finished, when there's nothing more I can get from it.
This feeling that you're able to identify when you say there's nothing left you can get from a track, is this have you become more attuned to this feeling as you've become more experienced, or is this something that when you're making music, let's say when you're 13 years old, like is this a skill that's developed or an innate thing? Like, long
Yes.
story short, there's producers who are watching and say, I don't have that feeling.
No.
How can they get in touch with that feeling?
Uh, th- um, I didn't have that feeling as well before, and it is a skill, and I can identify what it is. It's the skill of recognizing what an idea is. So, for instance, I see that this is a lot in my students when they create a track, and uh, so their first idea they put it down, and it's a really mellow track. Let's say there's a groove and there's some nice melodies, and when you accept that that's what it is, like it's a mellow melodic track, and then you work with the track to make it the best mellow melodic track that you can make, then you know when you're done.
Hmm.
But it becomes a problem when you think like, this is a mellow track, I want it to be hard and tough and dark,
Mhm.
so let me change some elements, and then you change the bass. Oh, and then the melody doesn't go with the bass, so you change the melody. And then the kick doesn't go with the new melody, so you change the kick. And then the new kick doesn't go with the bass, and then you go around in circles, and then you're never finished. So I think the most important skill is recognizing what the heart of the idea is, and the identity of it. And once you do that, then and that's a skill. I mean, it has to be learned. I'm I've had these moments where I thought I was this really tough techno producer, so I make this track and it's really mellow, and then I try to work against what it is, and it just drags on forever.
Yeah,
So you,
I identify with that feeling definitely.
but it's really difficult, and the way, I mean, to make it more practical, the way to develop this skill is by finishing tons of tracks and reflect when you finish something really easily. That's when you hit the good spot. When it
Hmm.
takes ages and ages and ages, you're working against what is there. I mean, and I can imagine also when you start out, there's also a problem of coming up with ideas. I mean,
Hmm.
that's what it was for me. Like, I I'd have a great bass line, to have a great drums, and then yeah, you need to come up with the main element. That's super difficult.
Hmm. Hmm.
And over the years, I've gotten better at identifying which elements I need, and it's a good approach to start with the most difficult element. If you have trouble making good lead melodies, the next time you start a track, don't start with the drums and the groove. Start with that lead melody and work from there,
Hmm.
because you can do the drums already. You've proven that over and over again.
Hmm.
So the
Hmm.
thing you haven't proven yet is you can do a good lead melody. So focus on that first, and then trust that the drums will come.
Great. Me personally, I'm curious. One of the things that I struggle with is I'll start a track or it'll be my first couple iterations and it won't be clear to me what this track is trying to be. So I'll continue working saying, okay, I could put this thing, hey, these all work together. Hey, these all work together. And then, by my eighth or ninth iteration, I'll have something where everything works together. And then I usually find that when I'm at my like 80 or 90 or 95% point, this could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I'm still trying to figure out how to identify it. I'm trying to say, like, what is this track? Like, I know what it's about. It's about this lead sound, but like, what is this? Is this like a club track? Is this like a listening track? Is this like a whatever? Um, I mean, could you drill down a little bit more in like actually figure understanding what a track is trying to be? Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to me, sometimes it's never revealed. I mean, I've released tracks where I'll be, talking with my manager, my friends, saying like, "Hey, I released this thing. I think it sounds good, but I actually don't even know what it is or how to describe this kind of thing."
Um, I mean, do you have a hard time telling whether it's like a club track or a? I mean,
Yes,
you do.
I do.
Ah, but you DJ, you know the feeling, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's too close to my own work, or if I'm too, there's like all this bias that comes, in playing your own work, or if it's just tracks that don't fit within, the box of a club track. I guess
Yeah, but
maybe
I mean,
I'll book you for a session sometime, and maybe we can
no, no, no.
listen.
But I really think it could have to do with the expectation
Yeah.
that. I mean, I'm really trying to think what it could be, and maybe you create a track and you know full well what it is, but you don't want to accept it. Could
Hmm.
that be it, or?
It could possibly be, yeah, one of the, not accepting the reality of what is, is that what you're saying? Not
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like especially if when you set out to do something like, oh, I'm gonna make a club banger,
Hmm.
and what you eventually create is not a club banger, then uh, you might be insecure about what it is. Maybe you're telling yourself, yeah, it is kind of a club banger, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it kind of.
If you look
Yeah,
at it
yeah.
from like a certain point of
I
view,
mean,
yeah.
maybe if we turn it up really loud, it'll turn into a
Yeah.
club. No, I'm really. I mean, the thing. I mean, if I were to do a one-on-one session with you, um, I would just have you play me a track, and then you tell me what you hear. And then I could possibly identify where the disconnect between you and the track is.
Mhm, mhm,
Maybe you don't have vocabulary yet.
mhm.
Where you, for instance, when you're a DJ, you need vocabulary so that you can decide what next track you will play.
Totally. I
right?
would think that's a skill that I'm very good at. I mean, I think I'm
Uh-huh.
good at reading dance floors and crowds and knowing what's appropriate to play then. But for some
Yeah,
reason with my own music, I think I'm maybe just too close to it or too insecure about what I want it to be able
yeah,
to
but
be able to put a label on it.
yeah, well, maybe, well, it's really honest of you that you admit that it could be insecurity, and I think
Oh,
that
there's
might.
lots of insecurity in what I'm doing
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well, that's
It's
well,
being an artist.
maybe that's part of it because from insecurity comes an unwillingness to accept what it is
Mhm,
as
mhm,
well. I
mhm.
think those two are connected in some way that I can't articulate fully right now, but I think they are connected.
Sure.
Uh, no, but this is typically the stuff we do. I do in one-on-one sessions where uh, being able to become aware of what you are doing, whether it is in mixing. For instance, to make it more practical, because this creative stuff is always a bit abstract. If you make it more, people come to me like, yeah, my mixes don't sound good.
Mhm.
Well, what are we going to do about it? There's no knob you can turn to make it sound good.
Right.
So then we break it down. Like, okay, why doesn't it sound good? What about the frequencies? Yeah, frequencies. And then we start talking like, okay, what is 100 hertz? What
Mhm.
does it mean emotionally? What is 50 hertz? What is
Mm.
3K? I hate 3K. 3 to 5K, I hate them. Take them away. Go. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I like to hike a lot. So before I went to a forest and they were like, yeah, oh, tons of trees. And it took me a while to figure out the names of the trees. And once I was able to name them, the forest became so much bigger. Because all
Mm.
of a sudden, like, oh, there's an oak tree and there's a willow, and oh wow, there's so many trees that I've never seen. Like before, it
Wow.
was just trees, and that's the same with frequencies and with mixing. Once you are able to build up a vocabulary of like, hey, this sounds harsh. Well, harsh, 3 to 5K. Oh, the low end, it sounds really square, and it sounds blocky. That's
Mhm.
150 hertz usually, so take it out of the kick. You see,
Yeah.
and then what you have done is you've taken this feeling like it doesn't sound good, it doesn't sound right. You've reduced it to something that you can act upon.
Mhm, mhm,
You
mhm.
see,
Sure.
and I think that's the same. I mean, if we now take it back to the more abstract level of creativity, like when is a track done?
Mhm.
That really has to do a lot with your expectations of what it should be. What you want to deliver, and I think as I got older, I also got milder with myself. I'm
Mhm.
able to produce a remix or a track and just be happy with whatever comes out. Whereas before, maybe I had more to prove.
Mhm,
Where
mhm.
I really set out like, yeah, I want to do a club banger.
Yeah.
And then
I want a hit, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, and then there's more room. Like I'll tell you, like you talked about, probably the release that put me on the map, that Tony with the Dixon
Mhm,
remix.
mhm.
Like the months after that release, when I went into the studio, that was the thing that was on my mind. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I need
I've
a
heard
track.
this.
I need a track that Dixon needs to play. Like, and I was, so I was being creative, and my first thought, like, yeah, but will Dixon play this, or any
Oh,
other DJ,
yeah.
and that completely kills all creativity. So, maybe that is what's holding you up in assessing like what is this track.
Mhm, mhm.
But I would be curious to have you play me one of your tracks and then tell me what you think that it is, and maybe it could be that you have a totally wrong image about,
Yeah.
or wrong, or maybe wrong is not the right word. Wrong is the wrong word.
Miscalibrated or yeah.
Yeah, or maybe colored by insecurity. I
Yeah.
mean, and
Yeah, yeah.
even being willing to admit that means you're able to progress.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely gonna take you up on that offer and sign up for one of your sessions. two other follow-on thoughts from my point of view, which is interesting, is, I do my own artist mentorship sessions, and I find it very easy when I'm stepping out, when I'm not within myself, to help other people say, well, it's very clear to me what's going on here, or what needs to be done, or even through these Discord demo
Yes.
days. I think it comes easy to me, but it's kind of like how therapists are required to be in therapy, kind of thing. And even
Yeah, yeah,
related
yeah.
to labeling things in psychology, what there's the exercise of labeling your feelings, and once you label your feelings, it actually becomes much easier to process your emotions, because it brings them to earth and it makes them tangible. So yeah, a lot is resonating and getting better at identifying and doing that in my own work.
But do you feel that when you are coaching others, then it's easier? Like when you listen to
Oh
their
yeah,
tracks? Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah, very
yeah,
easy.
okay.
Not very easy, but it comes naturally, I think, to me.
Yeah. So then it would be good to explore ways to, and this is incredibly difficult to learn how to listen to your music as somebody else would hear it.
Yeah,
So you need distance.
yeah.
And I mean, there's a couple of ways that you can do it. So one, I doing the dishes while listening to your own music.
Mhm.
That's a good one. I I longboard a lot, and then I will put my music on. So you have to be really focused on what's happening, especially when you're
Mm.
longboarding. Driving
Yeah,
heavy traffic, that could be a way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also, what I do is I mean, my composition teacher once told me that a painter will spend 80% of the time looking at the painting and only 20% painting.
Mm.
All know the like, like the the archetypical
Yeah,
painter, like looking from the distance, like, oh. That's what I do a lot as well. So when I'm in the studio, I will just put on the track without looking at the screen, without being focused on the details. I'll just walk around. Maybe I'll, I don't know. There's you can't see, but there's lots of stuff to clean up right here. So
Mhm, mhm. Got
so
it.
I will do that with the track, just filling the background and allowing me to hear the track as somebody else would hear it.
Sure, that makes complete sense.
So I mean, if you're able to do it with other people's tracks and you are not able to do it with your own tracks, then I think that's the skill that you need to develop.
Room for growth there, for sure.
But I mean, I feel we're having a private session, me with you,
I
and
know.
all the people. Wait, can we listen to some other
Yeah,
people's
let's
music,
listen to
please?
music. However, I will say, I think what we just covered in this last 10, 15 minutes
Yeah.
might be more valuable to all the producers watching than any specific feedback that we give on tracks. I think,
Well, then we can go on for another 2 hours.
I
Let's
know,
do this.
but we
No, no,
will.
no. You decide. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. No, we'll
I'm
definitely
more
listen
than
to
happy to
tracks.
talk.
All right.
Or
Yeah.
or if anybody has a question, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah.
just taking over, like,
Definitely open to questions from the chat. So
yeah, yeah,
let's
sure.
we are an hour 20 minutes into the stream. I think we've listened to like 2 tracks. So let's do a little bit of a speed round, kind of jumping into the middle and just getting a feel for the ideas behind the tracks.
Sure.
All right, here we go. This one from Sam Jasperson, HTTH. Here we go, right from the middle.
The time and space and to feel your heart beating. Hold my breath because the distance is just too much to take. What could I do or say to make this all fall away? 'Cause what happens to the heart? It's what happens to the The summer set and my thoughts decay.
I'm gonna pause it there, just in the interest of time. I think we have a pretty good idea of the feeling of the track, what's
Sure.
going on. I think I led on the last one. Michelle, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. The arrangement is pretty full. So I think it's really, really important to make a decision which parts are important. So, for instance, if you take the guitar and the vocal, I don't know which the composer wants me to listen to. So, because they are equally loud, so I can just as well listen to the guitar or the vocal. So, I would like if, or as a suggestion, make a decision about what you want. So if this were a band, who would you put in front? Like you can put the vocal really down because, but then that means that communicates to me it's not that important what she says. If it's really important what she sings, then you put the guitar a bit down. So the composition or the production overall is really crisp. I mean, I can't comment on the composition, of course, but I think the elements go really well together. It really puts this, well, somebody called it indie vibes. Really sunny, melancholic vibe, which I really like. But then within the elements, I think there could be a bit more make choices. That's what it doesn't sound like somebody made choices like, okay, this element, this is what it's about.
Cool. Yeah. Overall, my overall thoughts is I think this is great. I think it's beautiful. It's very clearly communicating a feeling to me. I mean, a lot of these feedbacks I'm giving, I'm starting with the feeling. It has a warm, summertime, I'm seeing in the chat feeling. Really, really beautiful, really nice. I hadn't even thought of the feedback that Michelle mentioned, but now that you said it, I agree with that. And it reminds me of an analogy some mixing engineer told me once, which is, even in electronic music, it's not a band, but imagine your track is a band on stage, and you were kind of touching on this. And then at any given point, you have one spotlight, and whichever instrumentalist on the stage the spotlight is shining on, your mix should be calibrated accordingly to who's the centerpiece of that point. So yeah, like you said, is it the vocals? Okay, then give the focus to the vocals, and then maybe when the vocals drop out, maybe you change your mix, bring the guitar to the forefront. So not adding anything new here, but just another kind of analogy to think about as performers on stage, with the spotlight.
Yeah, you could have heard it from me. I mean, I don't think we ever talked about it. Maybe telepathically, but
yeah, maybe it was.
I mean, I don't know, but I always tell my students this: even if you do electronic sounds, I mean, I go as far as when I mix my own tracks because I really enjoy doing it. I will consider the kick to be an instrument played by somebody who came to the studio to play that kick, and it really helps me to let that kick be the best kick that it can be, because for me, and this may sound a bit strange, but for me it's honoring the person that played that kick. So I imagine it really a band to be playing, and then giving everybody if I've had a sound and the guy who played that sound comes in, I want him to be happy. And that really makes it more personal. And like, yeah, I have these 20 layers. Oh, it's more than just putting the volume up. It's making that person more present. That's what it feels like to me.
Nice. Awesome. Well, were you going to say something else? Or?
No, we were spot on.
Okay. Oh, yeah, spot on. Perfect. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks for the submission, Sam. I really liked it.
Thank you.
For those who liked it, you can go to atishmusic.com/vote and tell Sam that you liked it as well, or that you loved it, whichever word you want to use. And now let's jump on to the next one. This is... my windows are all arranged weirdly. So usually I have a rule where I try not to do the same producer 2 months in a row, but Michael is submitted my favorite track of the stream last month, so I'm curious to hear what he put together for this month. Here we go. And actually, one of the tracks he submitted last month, he sent to us to Manjumasi, so it's a contender for a release on Manjumasi, but let's see if we can build an EP. All right, here we go. In the middle somewhere. Ooh. I wish we had more time so we could listen all the way. All right. All right. Just in the interest of time, sorry. I think it's pretty clear. He submitted my favorite demo last month, and I think I like this one even better than last month's. Um, if you're not shopping this to another label, please send it to Manjumasi, because this is exactly one of the worlds that I'm kind of really interested in musically. I think it touches on. It has this like Romanian minimal kind of micro house thing going on, but it still has these beautiful organic elements that sit on top, and I think you do it very tastefully. I think your fills and even your stereo panning with the fills and your snare rolls, or sorry, snare fills and everything, just really tastefully done. It's not overly in my face. The feeling it has this like warm feeling, and again that organic feeling sitting on top with some of these kind of techie kind of synthesized, maybe even like modular bass sounds. It's just a really beautiful palette of sounds that you have here. I'm After this stream, I'm gonna sit down and listen to the whole thing. I actually don't have any feedback. I'm kind of I'm kind of won over on this. I'm curious what Michelle thinks, but I think this is an ace. I think it's a really really great tune.
What is funny is that we hear exactly the same as the first and the second track, like a lot of randomness, like all this ear candy flying around, and somehow here it works really well because it's really low in the mix. So it's always a question like, what is this? Like, is this is this a synth? Is this a, like you said, is some modular stuff, or is it something organic? So it's really low in the mix, and that's why it works. In this case, the randomness works really well. Where with the two first tracks were a lot bolder with their elements, so then they stand out more, and it's way more difficult to do it. So you can get away with tracks like this. So these tracks, I mean, if you try to remember the track, there's nothing that you remember in particular. So it's more like an atmosphere. And I think, when we were talking about what is a track, what's the identity of a track, that's what this is. It's like an atmosphere, a groove, and there's this little ear candy, and that it does really really well.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. I'm very excited. I'm sending in my vote on this one so far. I'm I'm not guaranteeing anything, but if you send it to Manjumasi, you have my vote. It's just a question of convincing Slee and Naveen, but really, really great stuff here. Any critical feedback, Michelle, on this one?
No, yeah, for that I'd have to listen the whole track, because the problem with tracks like these is at some point, it's just, it could turn into, oh, there's some stuff flying around, so you need a bit of build up to have these tracks last. Like, how long is it? Can you see it?
It was 9 something. It's quite
Yeah.
yeah,
So it could be too
arrangement.
long. That really depends on the way the elements are structured, because there, even though you cannot go on forever with just having this little snare rolls and blah blah, blah going on. There needs to be some structure, like pad on and off, that kind of stuff. So
That's a fair point. I'm probably jumping the gun and saying I want to sign this. I would like to hear the whole track first, but
yeah,
based off what I've heard, yeah, it's
for
pretty.
for all you know, there's a gabber part, near the end. Like,
Then I would definitely sign it.
I'll remember that.
Yeah. For when if you send us demos. All right, let's jump forward. Thanks for the submission. Really killer track. This one is Common and Parallel Voices called ID2. Let's just jump in the middle here, just before the break. Cool. I just want to just jump back really quick and hear one thing. Okay, cool. Michelle, you want to lead on this one?
No.
Okay. I'll go first. I think overall, to me, it's very polished. I mean, the production sounds professional. It's something that if I heard in a club, I think the club would be dancing to it. It has the new breaks revival thing, and I think you do it well. I actually really like that snare sound. It has that kind of wompy kind of bass thing. It's a track where I think strategically or sonically it kind of checks boxes of a few different genres at once, and I think it might do reasonably well from a playability point of view. Um, I don't have any technical feedback on this. intangible feedback on it is, while it checks a lot of the production boxes, it doesn't feel like it has like a soul to me, or it doesn't like I think it would work really well functionally in a club, but to me it just doesn't have that thing that I would remember or want to come back to necessarily, or I'm not doing a good job of articulating it, but there's some kind of soul or personality or exciting bit about it that would that I would feel like makes this stand apart from the rest of the pack outside being a really, really well produced track. But on that note, on that front, I mean the only reason that I'm giving you this type of feedback is because technically I think it's actually very, very well produced and I think it sounds good. So just the next level, if I think if you wanted to push it further, um my hand wavy feedback is what could be done to make this we could have a conversation, what could be done to make this special or to have more of a soul or be something that's really like memorable. That's the best I can do, on my.
Well, it's not good enough.
Yep. No, there's nothing you can do with that at all.
No, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the drums. There's this whole, the whole breakbeat revival, which is, well, is it still a revival? It's been going on for 2 years, but I think this is, what I feel.
What 2 years?
Yeah, but what I think with breakbeat revival is the same thing as we talked about with the YouTube videos. So people pick up like, hey, breakbeats are a thing. And lo and behold, everybody ends up using the same 3 breakbeats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with this sounded like somebody, I don't know, it might be a sample but somebody sat down and was like, hey, I'm going to do some breakbeat stuff, but I'm going to do it my way. That's what it sounded like to me. I mean,
cool.
So yeah, the drums were well constructed. There was, there were a lot of little details coming in and out. There's like right after the break, there's this offbeat hi-hat in there all of a sudden, which I don't think really works because it doesn't really work with the groove. But when I started noticing and thinking about, hey, I should comment on this, that's when it was gone. So there, I can hear like there's a lot of work that has gone into it, which is not necessarily a good thing. So that might lock in with what you call like polished. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can work things too much, focus too much on the details. But yeah, in terms of rhythm, I really liked it.
Cool.
And and the break worked well as well, and the drop. I mean, I can comment on the whole track, but
yeah. But
so this was good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm and one thing I should get better at doing in these streams is like if a track is great, I don't necessarily have to dig for like critical feedback. I mean, maybe I'm the bad cop here, but like I do want to just rest on the idea that fundamentally this is a very, very well produced track. I think so. 95% of it is very, very well produced. The 5% is like I don't know if I would come back to it, but that's just a very, very personal thing.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I mean, production should always come second, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think music always comes first.
Yeah. All right, or the feeling that it evokes, related to that. Let's see. This one, but thanks for your submission. And let's jump to Blue Attic again and again. Let's just jump in the middle here. Okay. All right. I think we have a good feel for it there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think, Michelle, you want to lead on this one?
Yeah, sure. Um, this one sounds polished as well, but it makes me feel like, um, I'm curious about the source of these sounds. Like, for instance, the vocal and maybe the producer can come into the chat. Like, was this recorded or was this taken from a sample pack? Because that's I mean, whoop, is he there? Yeah. Okay. Oh well, let's see.
Yeah.
So I mean, this production, it sounds really good, but it also sounds to me like there are some elements that you can get from sample packs, maybe from Splice, and put them together, and it sounds like the stuff that is out there. So I'm really curious to hear whether it was done in a way where somebody really sat down and tried to capture a sound and then use synths and samples and recorded a vocal to make it sound like that, or whether it was taking elements that were out there and then putting them together in a way like that, because it all sounded really familiar to me.
Can I ask you a philosophical question? As a
uh,
as a
let me think about that.
as, as a listener of music, and let's just leave aside the technical critique. Does it matter to you if it's someone who conveys a feeling, whether it came from a bunch of samples or where someone intended and created them all from scratch?
Yeah, because I want heroes.
Hmm.
No, the thing is, and that's it's because I am a producer,
Mm-hmm.
I'm spoiled as a listener. I can. If music is really good, I can. I don't think about production. When music it doesn't engage me, that's when I start thinking about the production. I see somebody sitting behind their DAW producing music, and then I start thinking questions like, how would this have been done? Oh, where did he get this sample? So, does it matter? For me, music is about musicians or artists being curious and 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 wanting to develop, wanting to find out new stuff about themselves, about their music. Like a guy I'm a lot into lately is called Super,
Mm-hmm.
and I was listening to some newer tracks of his, and then I found some old tracks of his, and I was amazed about the development that he went through. Like he started out with this really lo-fi stuff, and the stuff he does now is super polished but still has this edge to it. And that's what I like to see, artists who question themselves and reflect upon what they do and then try to get better.
Sure.
And I think, I mean, it's a really good question. Like, can you hear in the music that somebody just took some samples, or went to great lengths to create a sound? I think you can, because I mean, every track is the product of a certain number of decisions,
Mm-hmm.
I think. And I think you can hear that when somebody really put some thought and feeling into it. I mean, it's not always about thinking, it can also be really intuitive, but when somebody put a lot of musical energy into it, let's put it that way. I think that's a good way of putting it. That I can hear, and that's what I miss a bit with this. But I'm willing to be schooled on this. I mean, if the producer took all these elements, then it's a really well done production. Maybe not that special. It's not a standout production, but it's really, really well done then.
Sure. I don't have any feedback to add on that track, but just to your point, there's a phrase that I use. Some people might look at art as just a channel to communicate an idea, and whatever comes through the speakers, that's the idea. That's the only thing that matters. I think I might be more, and maybe aligned with you around where art is only as relevant as its context, in which it's presented, or maybe the way it's created. Like if this person created this on a little kid's toy piano somehow, and he manipulated all the songs, all the sounds that way. That's part of the artistic statement. That's the context in which this art is presented in. So it's more than just what's coming through the speakers.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and similarly, you can get into, if you push this to its max, you can get into commercialism and brand, and the way they're dressed and all these kinds of things, which are actually all, especially from a DJ point of view, these are all parts of the package. But whether or not you care about these things is another question. But these are all factors in the context in which the art is presented, which has an effect on many, if not most, listeners, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you for the submission, Blue Attic, I think it was.
Yes.
Yes, Blue Attic. And let's jump right into the next one. We're doing a power hour here. Let's try and see how many we can get through here. This is by Alex Donofrio, Lullaby Remix. Pause it there. I'll lead on this one. So Alex, actually, I remember you submitted a track a few months back, which I really, really loved. I asked you for the tune, and I played it in one of my sets. And this one, I don't love it as much as the first one, and I think so overall, I think the feeling here is very nice. It's a very pleasant track. It's beautifully melodic. The elements play well together. I actually think it's the same chord progression as the first track you sent me. I forgot what it's called. But I think there's kind of been a recurring theme here. In this track, I feel like every element is trying to be the lead here. There's not a lot of dynamic range. I think like the ARP is kind of fighting with the vocals, which is fighting with those bells kind of thing. Everything feels pushed to the max, which I think actually kind of detracts a little bit from the emotional feeling that I could otherwise take away. So my feedback on it is see if there's more room for dynamics, accentuation, variation, evolution of textures. I think the composition of the music is great, but kind of go back to that conversation Michelle and I, or Michelle was mostly leading on about like what is, at this point in the track, what is the track about? Because that's not immediately clear to me. Everything's just kind of fighting for space in my ears.
Could you play me another 5 seconds, please?
Yep.
Do I agree with you? I don't know.
Love it when I disagree with the guest.
Yeah. You know nothing. No, and
do any of us really know anything?
this is really good. Like all the elements were really separate. No, I think it wasn't as bad as you said it, but there's this feeling, just as with the previous track that I have, that I somehow have heard these elements before, and that doesn't make it a bad track. I mean, like tons of tracks like this get released, and it's just I don't know. I think it's so much fun as an artist to push yourself beyond the point where you sound like your examples.
Hmm.
So there's this, instead of working towards your examples, take those as a starting point and see where it leads you. So with this, yeah, it could use a bit of an edge, I think. And what an edge is, that's, because that's a vague term, if there ever was one. Usually it has to do with personality,
Hmm.
like, picking something that you like, that, like what you said before about my drums, that you never seem to be sure where the one is.
Hmm.
I didn't realize it, but now that you tell me, I think, like, yeah, that's something I've been trying to do.
Hmm.
So subconsciously, that's what I put in every decision I make. um, and look for those things, not that they make you unique in any sense, but they make it a bit more personal.
Hmm.
So this track could do with that, I think.
Maybe another word to use instead of edge. I don't know if this is more or less accurate, but the track felt very safe. You know, there was nothing wrong about it, or nothing that kind of
Hmm.
made me like peek my eyes out and say, "Ooh!" Like everything was very, very safe. It sounded great. It was very, very pleasant. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what I
No,
remember and
so,
come back to it. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
sorry. Yeah, edge. That's perfect description of what I meant.
got it. All right. I'm just here to reiterate everything you say in different words. So okay. Uh,
Yeah.
let's keep moving forward here. This is Verini, Never Reach the End, and thanks, Alex, for the submission. And let's just jump right in this first break right here. All right, let's pause it there. Who went first
Well,
this time?
I have to say, like the last few tracks, like maybe even all of them, the production quality is pretty high, I'd
Yeah,
say.
definitely.
And where did they learn that? I'm really curious because it took me so long to get a proper sound. Uh, could be YouTube again, where you learn quickly.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's quite possible.
No, I mean, it could also be the elements, but like this one as well, it sounded really good. In terms of music, I like the portamento melody, although it's vaguely familiar. Well, I think I've heard it somewhere. Something similar. While there's so many melodies out there. Um, um, I don't know. Like it's really hard to listen to this type of track. With just 1 minute, you don't get the idea. I mean, if we were to listen to 1 minute of my track, you wouldn't be able to say something sensible about it
It's true.
either, because there's not this big element that attracts your attention. So based upon what I hear, if I had to say something, if I wanted to say something sensible about it, I'd have to listen to the whole track. But this would invite me to listen to the whole track.
That's good. Yeah, there's a tough line to walk with these streams, especially near the end, where I want to reach as many people as possible, but you might be trading off the quality of feedback. And as I mentioned in the chat, there's also ear fatigue going on, which makes it harder for me to stay engaged in a track. My feedback on it, I agree. I think the portamento, it has personality to it. I would say that element, maybe play with it a little bit more. You can play with having a varying melody. There's definitely room to experiment with the texture and push it to go weirder and more out there, because it already has a little bit of weirdness to it. So lean into that idea more, and this track will stand out a lot more. I think there's kind of an ongoing theme. It's very well produced, sounds professional, but there's a risk of this kind of being forgotten in the world of tech house or deep house or whatever you want to call it. So you have a nice sparkle of weirdness. Lean into it and go further, and don't be afraid to play if you want it to stand out from the rest.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that, if this is the level of production of people sending demos, then production is not the way to have an edge over other producers anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's a good place to be, where this is the kind of feedback, right?
Yeah. But it turns out it's not. If your production is top notch, that's not. It only works when your music is top notch as well, or stands out in any way. That's when good production sells.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just good production, like you said before, I feel it's good. It's well produced, but it doesn't. It has no soul. That's what you said in as feedback on another track. So it's not the determining factor anymore, it seems. Whereas there was a time, well, maybe there was never a time, but I think there was a time where with good production, you really had an edge over other producers, where you could really stand out, like having stuff sound really good. But I mean, everything sounds good now.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the submission. Sorry if we weren't very helpful. Let's give this one a little bit more time. Then let's give it a couple more minutes than the last one, and hopefully we can give it a better shot. So I can't actually see the waveform, but let's start here.
Oh,
You know this one?
I know the guy.
Oh, nice. All right, I'm gonna pause it there. Or do you want to listen a little bit more? What do you
No,
think?
no, 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 no. No, this is a Dutch guy, Arthur. I think if it's the one, I think because the name isn't that common. So
Oh,
yeah, we did a couple of sessions together. Right?
oh, nice.
Maybe quite.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there he is in reverse. Hey, Arthur, can we talk Dutch?
Please don't.
No,
uh,
this one.
okay.
But the funny thing is, I was thinking of feedback, and then when I noticed who it was, then I started to think differently. I
Oh,
mean, I think, oh yeah, you see, he answers in Dutch, so that's the one. But first of all, good to hear you're still making music. That's really cool. But you probably had the one with Ramza or Samza, the second one, right? That because
yeah. Because I knew in reference to where he had come before.
yeah, but that's
Yeah.
the thing, it's also
Context.
yeah. And now I notice, if you allow me, that when I sit with people, and give feedback on their tracks, it's so different because I can see their body language,
Mm,
and I try to get, because, I hope I've been able to give constructive feedback, but it's really, really difficult because I don't see the people,
mm.
with some people I see they can handle, like strong critique, they're like, their body language are like, yeah, tell me the truth.
Uh-huh.
Where other people will be really shy and say, like, and you need to be cautious, and you
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to,
yeah.
and sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, or was too nice for other people, but that's the best this medium can give us. So to the track, it's bold. So that's a good thing. I think with what I was saying before about, and I know the style Arthur was doing before, so he's trying new stuff, which I really like. um but what I was mentioning before with the break beats, I don't know for sure, but this could be one of those breakbeat loops. It sounded really familiar.
Mm.
And it really, I mean, listening to the way it came back in the break, I have the impression that the kick and the snare are in one loop.
Hmm.
But I don't know for sure. I'd have to look in the project then. Um, the melodies seem a bit disconnected, and that has a lot to do with the reverb. One is really dry, and the other one has a lot of, like, the main one has a lot of reverb. But it sounds like dystopia, but that's what he tried to do, I think.
Hmm.
And it feels like the main melody is meandering a little bit too much. There doesn't seem to be a clear direction into it. Like, hey, I have a note here. Oh, there's another note there, and then maybe it could be, maybe in the rhythm could be a bit more. How do you say it? Yeah, purposeful. That's what I would like to say.
Got it. Cool. I don't have much to add. Maybe the only thing I would think about is in the break. The break feels quite dragged out, and especially when it's stripped down to like these two elements here. I think it's fine and it's great for a break to get quite naked, but I think in this case, either it's too long, or if you want to experiment with having a break this long, then you might need some kind of evolving textures or sounds or kind of ear candy that hangs around to support what's happening in the breakdown. It just felt a little bit dry to me, and I was just kind of waiting to see where it was going. But I agree with the rest of everything Michelle said there.
Well, you could rephrase it, right? That's what you've been doing before. Just rephrase what I said. You can do it.
No, now I realize what's the point. I'll just say I agree with what you said, and now that I feel like we're shorter on time because I want to get through things. That's my.
Well, nice to see Arthur around.
Thanks for the submission.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into. What do you say we do? Like 2 or 3 more? Does that work, Michelle?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. Let's jump into Fosse, Deli Rio.
vocal.
All right, I'll pause it there. I'll lead on this one. I really like this one a lot. Actually, I think it had a really nice energy. That bass is super fat and it's boom, boom, boom. It's like moving forward, beautiful melodic elements sitting on top, and then similar to one of the tracks he submitted a few months back, just beautiful vocal that's sitting on top of it all. I think so. Overall, really, really great tune here. I think the biggest thing that I would say to think about is I think you have all the colors on your palette to work with. And I think now at this point, if I was working on this track, I would play with the art of removal, seeing how many elements I could remove to complete the track. I think definitely a few points in there I felt like there was a lot of elements taking up space and fighting for each other, and I will give a nod to maximalism, that has its place, but I think for this kind of tune there were a lot of elements fighting for space, a lot of elements that were loud, maybe it was even over compressed a little bit, but I think to maybe go from that 90% to 100%, I would see how many elements can I remove, how much can I mute, can I bring things in and out, use them less frequently, and I think that can yield an even stronger emotional response. But overall, I think it's a really, really nice track, really nice energy. I think it's in a good direction.
I love that groove. It's just I don't know. There's the thing we were talking about, like the offbeat hi hat being there, so white people can dance.
Yeah.
I remember a time, and this was like 1989, like 1990 when I started going out to clubs. That's when the rules weren't written yet. So a night would be filled with all kinds of rhythm, and somehow somewhere during the 90s this all converged into like the basic group like, that we have now. That's like 99% of the tracks. So I really enjoy when something breaks out of that. And a lot of people won't dance to this because they lack, where's the clap, where's the but I with me it really I don't know, it does something in my body, it just makes me move in a certain way, and I love it. I really wonder if this producer is, I wonder where he's from. Like somebody mentioned Brazilian, perhaps.
He submitted a track like 3 or 4 months ago that had a Portuguese vocal on top of it, so he could be Portuguese or Brazilian.
Yeah, because it might be growing up in that culture. Oh, Morocco. Oh,
okay.
So that's the guy. Oh, he looked him up. So this guy is probably grew up with different sounds, and taking that, and projecting, molding electronic music to fit the, the sounds that he grew up with. This is just pure speculation. But there's something there. So if the guy is from Morocco, I wouldn't be surprised. Because so especially African music, as it's all about rhythm, and Moroccan has this really great tradition of desert music that's really great to listen to. Has all these really interesting rhythms, and I really enjoyed it there. There is this thing of overcompression, which I hear. What is strange is that the beat is really compressed, and then the vocal is not. So it's really lying on top, and there isn't much movement. But then in the beat there is. So I feel like there might be too much compression on the drums and bass, although it helps get this. It supports the groove. It makes it even like, if you play it again for is it like 1 second? Like,
let me go back.
Yeah, the grooves to me sounds like you're pushing something through a hole, and then it's through. Like there's this resistance, and then it lets go. So every bar you have this resistance and then letting go, and it works for me. But then it might not work for everybody because people want to do the bunny skip on the dance floor. Like
I don't know. Oh yeah.
no, that's. I mean to go back to the good old days, like the way people would dance. People had to invent how to dance. I remember being on a dance floor where people told me, "You dance in a silly way." Well, that's my badge of honor.
Yeah.
I mean, but
it's your
now
expression.
like all the dancers, they look really uniform as well. Like everybody doing the skip from side to side. Like, or maybe I go to the wrong party. So
I mean, this is a track. I could just imagine this track playing in the streets and people just kind of celebrating life, kind of
yeah,
vibe, having a good time. Maybe even on like a shitty kind of like JBL speaker, on some like
I
kind of
know
thing.
that speaker.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's like
we've all
the
played on those before.
archetype.
Where I mean, he has the compression in the drums, or the speaker will just do it for you, to achieve that same sound.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's do one
So,
more.
but just for my understanding, so people submit, but then they don't hang around, or what happens?
I mean, not everyone knows if their track is going to be reviewed.
Oh, okay.
We've been doing it for 2.5 hours. Maybe they have to go to work, maybe they have to eat dinner,
Yeah, sure.
time zones. But
Yeah.
the recording will be up on YouTube, so people can go
Yeah.
back.
I mean, I would love it to have some direct, you know, have the guy in the chat or the girl,
Yeah.
but then to make up a little bit for the fact that it's really impersonal.
Yeah. If there was a way that I could guarantee that, someone's track would be on the stream and that kind of thing, there would have to be a big handshake to do that, which is a little bit hard.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. You're doing a great job. So, but
All right, let's do this one, then we'll do one more, and then let's call it a night. All right, this is Concord, Flowers and Wounds, featuring Alice Lackner.
oh yeah.
Should we keep going?
No, thanks.
All right.
I think Consi, are you? Did I talk to you in Carter Blau for quite a long time? Once. He's in the chat, so I think I know the guy. Yes, in
All
Carter
right.
Blau. Yeah, I think it was 2018 or 2019. Yeah, cool. I remember, of course. My memory is too good. Who's the singer?
Looks like this Alice Lackner.
Yeah, so I think it's family, right, Consti? Yes,
Oh.
that's a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
And I think the way it is, the sound of the voice and then the elements, like you were shocked, like the sound that came in after the, that is courage.
Yeah.
To be able to come up with those combinations and pull it off. That's really brave. So yeah, this is it's really, really good.
Cool. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was different. It was unique. I was surprised. I don't know. Now I'm actually starting to doubt my ear. It could really be ear fatigue. I feel like outside the break, everything feels really loud to me. But I'm not really trusting my judgment right now. It just
Maybe you
Sorry.
need to turn it down a little bit. Then if everything's too loud, you just need to turn it down. No, I think one thing I noticed is, for instance, the drive in that part where you are right now.
Mhm.
Just listen to the kick. It's not there. It's all bass driven. I think that's really cool. So I like I talked, like I spoke before. Like every track is a series of decisions that you make, and with every decision you can, basically pick a road. I think with this there are so many decisions that speak of a good taste in sound.
Yeah.
And also like just listen to that part. Just try to feel the kick. Just listen to the kick. You see, it's not there. So I think that's because it has a lot of drive. It's all coming from the bass. I think it's really cool.
Right on. But yeah, overall, I liked it. It caught my attention. Very unique. I was surprised. All the things that I love about music. So, cool. This will be the last one. This is Mario Tavares. This is Rumors. And let's bring it on home. Let's jump to the middle here. Oh, it's 3:01. So
about you, and I'm liking all the things they say. I feel my body come alive when I'm around you. I heard a rumor that you feel the same. All this attention we causing, let's keep 'em hooked, keep 'em talking. No, I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm addicted to all the things you do, like a magnet. You got me in pursuit, and I love it. Ooh, every time we touch it. Oh. I heard a rumor that there's something about you, and I'm liking all the things they say. I feel my body come alive when I'm around you. I heard a rumor that you feel the same. I heard a rumor that there's something about you, and I'm liking all the things they say. I feel my body come alive when I'm around you. I
It's too interesting for the mainstream.
It's like and Mario. I've heard some of his other work, and I've bought some of his other work. He comes from an underground background, and he's even saying, this is I talked to him about this track before I heard it, and he was saying he got involved in a more mainstream kind of pop oriented project, more commercial
Yeah,
thing. That's where he went, and you can hear a lot of the details and sophistication of an underground producer in this pop kind of
absolutely.
context, and it's not the type of music that I listen to or I buy, but like my head was bobbing. It's like this is well produced, like like I enjoyed listening to it. Little details here and there, like the single hi-hat hits, or I also actually arrangement wise liked how it went into that subdued section and you had the harmonized vocals. It was really fun. It was really nice. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
but before, because Mario's in the chat, before he said what the context was, I was thinking like, well, what is this? And then after 5 seconds, I instantly understood what he tried to achieve, like, more, yeah, like poppy vibe that he was going for. So that's good. And then he said, what he said, publisher came back, asked for a bigger chorus. Um, is this it? I don't know. It feels almost too sophisticated. I mean, mainstream comes in many guises, of course. So, it. Uh, I think it's too sophisticated to be really super, super mainstream. If you have to fight with, whatever, like Dua Lipa, that kind of stuff, forget about it. This is too sophisticated for that. Uh, and I don't know, Mario, for how long have you been doing like the more commercial stuff? Could you answer in the chat?
I'm sure he'll respond shortly.
Yeah, he's here. Because what I feel like when you change styles, it takes a while, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Come back to the good side, please. Yeah. Well, what have you done, Mario? No, but it takes a while to, it's like people ask me like, yeah, so how to produce, and and then so can you make an EDM track? No, I cannot. It will take me 2-3 years to make something that is credible.
Hmm.
So because you also need to unlearn certain things, and I think with this one, like, I'm being serious, well, a bit tongue in cheek when I say this is too interesting to be commercial or to be mainstream, because especially when the breakdown, there's this little jazzy thing going on that sounds super cool, but that's for people who like sounds. People like us, people like Mario, probably, if he was an underground, or and then we're focused on sounds, making interesting sounds, whereas most commercial people are just like, yeah, can I sing it along, even if I don't want to. That's what they're looking for. Have you ever watched these people in the supermarket? They're just mindlessly humming the tune that's on the radio.
Yeah.
I've
I mean, it gets stuck in here, but
I mean, there are many sad sights in the world, but this is one of the saddest. I think.
yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know, Michelle. There is some pop music that's really like. You ever listen to Billie Eilish? She's
Well,
kind of a younger generation kind of
yeah,
pop.
yeah. Well, that's what my students bring to me. Like, yeah, I want to sound like this.
And what do you think? I mean, her production partner, her brother Phineas, I actually
Uh-huh.
think his sound design and his
Yeah,
mixing is
yeah. Absolutely,
incredible, like beyond anything that I had even thought I was going for.
absolutely. But I think, um,
This
like,
is a
yeah,
different thing.
yeah, no. But it is a different thing. But we were talking before also about, um, recognizing what the track is,
Hmm.
and then and when you recognize what a track is, then you also become aware of what it isn't. So with this track, I'd say yes, it's pop. It is, it ticks those boxes. But there's also this, well, maybe underground vibe to it, which puts it in a certain corner. Um, and that's not a bad thing. But it's for Mario. Like, if you, I'm really curious what the publisher says. If this is what he or she wanted. But it could be that they say like, no, it needs to be bigger, and bigger usually means simpler, and simpler means it will reach more people. So if you want to make music, for instance, for a publisher, then that means sometimes you need to um, be aware of your own preferences, and once you can make a choice, don't make the choice that you prefer, but make the other choice.
Hmm.
Oh, they loved it. That's what Mario says right now.
They love the small version.
Yeah. No, it
I
was
mean,
a smaller originally, so they like this. Well, that's good.
oh, okay, got it.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, here we go. The goal is that weirdness of crossover progressive. Yeah. So if that was the goal, you did a great job.
Yeah, this was fun to listen to. If I heard this in like, I
The,
did
the
like a
supermarket, you'd hum
yeah,
along, right?
super yeah. Or like I'm imagining like a shoe store for like 21-year-olds, and like normally I'm just like, oh, this pop music is killing me. But if like this came on, I'd be like, this is like appropriate
I
for this shoe store with loud lights, but this is really good too. Like
it's funny how it works because you said shoe store and then you said 21. Why did you do that?
I'm visualizing I was just at a mall. I was in my parents' hometown, and we walked by a shoe store where a whole bunch of kids were hanging out at the mall. In the shoe store, it had flashy lights and loud like EDM music. So that's just the image I had in my mind. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That's
Well,
just what I saw.
it might be subliminal because there is this youth clothes store that's called Forever 21.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Right.
Can you imagine the hell of being Forever 21? That's what hell looks like to be Forever
You just walk
21. Like,
into a Forever 21.
no, but just
Yeah,
try to
21 years
remember.
old.
Yeah, try to remember the things you worried about when you were
Yeah,
21,
it was so stupid.
and that forever.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh wow.
That is
Yeah. So no, great job, Mario.
perfect. Awesome. Well, that was really fun. Michelle, I really appreciate your
My pleasure.
time and offering your ears and your expertise and music history. As we discussed before, not everyone's submissions made into the stream, but first submitting your demo for people, being open enough to hear people's feedback, that's a victory in itself. And for everyone
Absolutely.
who made it to the stream, I hope you found what we had to say valuable. And yeah, it's just our two opinions. So thanks, Michelle. Did you have a good time?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I noticed that it's listening to music this way on headphones. It's way more tiring than listening in when I'm in a room with somebody.
Yeah.
That's probably what you've noticing as well. I mean, you've been talking about destroyed ears for at least 45 minutes now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, so yeah, it's really tiring. But I mean, and also, as a teacher, I always try to help people, and I feel that this might not be the best platform. But on the other hand, I couldn't fly to where you are every time you want to do this. So
Yeah. It's
mean,
the best we got.
I hope everybody that I commented on their tracks, they feel it was constructive and it came from a good heart.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Just a quick update. I've been taking a break from gigs for a little while, but I'll be back on the road March 25th in Houston, March 26th in Miami, April 1st in Denver, April 2nd in Chicago, Dallas and Phoenix later on in April, and then a festival in Southern California that you might all know about, which I can't officially announce yet. So yeah, back on the road, happy to be gigging again, and just getting back in the swing of things. But thanks again for everyone tuning in. Thanks, Michelle, and hope you all have a good night. Take care.
Bye bye.